I'm going to do a video on politics. What some of you don't know is I was political blogging, every day, quite a bit for a couple of years, and I was still talking philosophy like I do now, but it was in the area of social philosophy and politics. And I was involved in the growth of a site, DailyKos, which is now a huge site. When I started, the owner of this site, Markos, was not making any money off of it, and since then he's made quite a bit of money off of it and become a millionaire due to it. I'm going to go through an interview of his in Salon, and he talks about various things. Before that, I'll just talk a little bit about Palin. As soon as Palin was chosen, the political bloggers on the left just started having a field day. They were accusing her, for example, of her youngest child being actually Bristol's baby. They were happy when she had to admit Bristol was pregnant now. They saw that was because of the pressure they put on her. And all of these things they attacked for 2 days. And what was the result of that? Did that help? No. What that did is that lowered expectations for her speech, her acceptance speech. And it created a lot of attention to her, so that the audience was huge watching that speech. And basically all she had to do was seem, not as stupid as Dan Quayle, and it was going to be a big success. And that's what's happened. And so they had a much bigger bounce. Now a lot of the leftists thought, oh, they're just trying to get women and disenchanted Hillary voters. No, they're doing what Republicans usually do, which is make an appeal to their own base. Democrats always assume they're trying to please everybody, but it's Democrats that do that, not Republicans. And they were just so excited, that he'd done this stupid boneheaded move to try to get Hillary voters, when obviously Hillary voters are not going to be interested in a pro-life, fundamentalist Christian woman. But that isn't what they were doing at all. And then since then they've just talked about Palin, which is good for McCain, because if McCain is not being listened to, then it's just his reputation that people will think about him, that he's a war hero and all of this stuff, and a maverick and all of these things. But if you let him speak, then he puts his foot in his mouth with 7 houses and this kind of thing, and it usually is a series with him because he does not back off. He makes one mistake and he'll just compound it. And he was actually in such a series when he announced Palin, and that just dropped out of the public consciousness as we all discuss Palin. If we discuss Palin from now till the election, McCain will win, okay? And because of framing, it does not look good if Obama is trying to prove he's as good as Palin, because that makes it seem like he has to prove he's as good as Palin before he even earns the right to go on to McCain. Democrats don't get that, and one reason is that people like Markos Moulitsas. Now, even though I was user 933 on a site that now has 1 million visits a day, I did get banned from DailyKos because I would not bow to Kos's now overgrown sense of ego. Now, I knew from the start that he wasn't as progressive as he was saying. He used to be a Republican. He thinks the CIA is a liberal organization, and so on. And still, I was disenchanted by him because he was a libertarian. When he started his site, it was just his blog and comments. Then he moved over to a software called Scoop, which allowed people to write their own diaries, and called diaries, and they're their own essays, and have their own page. And he wasn't even going to have this feature turned on, and he figured, what the hell? And then he said, but listen, I'm going to do editorial control on the front page, but the diaries, those are your things. Do whatever you want. I'm a libertarian. And I believed it, and I especially believed it because, he'd never controlled his own speech. The secret to his success was that he was willing to be against the war at a time when that was, considered, treason. And he said things such as screw him about those contractors that got killed and burned and hung from the bridge in Fallujah. He said screw him, he was non-diplomatic about it. But then later on he did start wanting to control his diaries. Now, conspiracy theories are not allowed there. Calls for impeachment, no, not allowed. And he started trying to control the message. And that's not what the internet's about. That's not what the progressive world's about. The benefit of the internet for progressive views is that we can say anything, and that we are not controlling the message we are just partaking in the message. Anyway, Markos Moulitsas is a wealthy, well-known man now. The likes of Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi will answer his emails because he's a little bit of considered a little bit of an internet power broker. I think mostly by himself. I think the others think he's a very easily controlled factor that they can use. His site has become a place for the manufacture of consent, but it's not really very savvy. For example, lowering these expectations on Palin. So this Salon interview opens with a quote of Markos's. 2 years ago, Palin was a part-time mayor of a village of 6,000. Today, she's supposedly ready to step in to run this country in the eventuality that Senator McSentry can no longer perform these duties. Right. This was a sop to the right, which was unwilling to accept a pro-choice Republican on the ticket, and a pathetic and hilariously desperate effort to grab the 17 holdout Pumas, who are fake Democrats already willing to vote for McCain anyway. So here you see what kind of a person Markos Moulitsas is. He wants to be the Rush Limbaugh of the left. You know, Senator McSentry, oh, so funny. And Pumas, do you know what that is? Okay, Puma, acronym, Party Unity My Ass. So that's for the Hillary supporters that are like, I'm going to vote for McCain if Obama wins. And they both want to mock that type of person while they're secretly really angry and frightened about it. So the first question, how do you see McCain's selection of Sarah Palin as his vice presidential nominee affecting the race going forward? There's so much discussion when the pick was first announced that McCain was deliberately going for the disenchanted Hillary Clinton voters. But do you think this pick is going to end up hurting McCain or giving him a boost? Markos, obviously I'm not a woman, so it's tough for me to sort of understand the mindset of many Clinton supporters. Okay, subtext, only women are Clinton supporters. Now you have to understand, one of the first events that caused DailyKos, Markos' site, to fall apart as a broad progressive coalition was an argument over an ad he had. There was a pie fight for this reality show, Gilligan's Island, and these two women had this cream pie fight. And it didn't bother me, it didn't bother a lot of people really, but it did bother the feminists on the site, and so they were complaining. Now, I can understand the argument of, hey, don't worry about it or whatever, but Markos had to go the extra mile, and he said, I'm not going to listen to, the sanctimonious woman study set. And that was really offensive to me, and, Markos is a sexist bastard as far as I'm concerned, and I think that this is, a subtle confirmation of that. He says, McCain thought putting a pair of breasts on the ticket was going to be enough to win the support of the disenchanted Hillary supporters. No, it was a sop to the right, like you said, Markos. Okay, next question. Do you think Barack Obama responded correctly to Sarah Palin's daughter's pregnancy? And Markos says, yeah, of course, it's not his job to be digging into that. Of course, he means it is the job of, other people. So he says, ultimately, when it comes to Bristol Palin, the issue isn't, oh, well, she's a bad girl. We're progressives. We don't care if she got pregnant. That's between her family and her. She's got to deal with it. And in fact, progressives believe in having the services available to make her life better and help her in what's going to be a very difficult journey ahead. True. He says, the issue, of course, is that Sarah Palin is a strong supporter of abstinence-only education. So here we have a situation where, it doesn't work. So he thinks it's legitimately fair game, even though Obama shouldn't go after it. Well, it's Obama's campaign. Question. Do you think Palin's pick was a game changer, whether good or bad, and how do you think it'll affect the long-term election? He says, no doubt it was a game changer. Yeah, it was a game changer, because for one, she has a bit of a personality. It doesn't really appeal to me, but she does have one. Whereas McCain doesn't really have one. He's just sort of surly. That's not exactly, a personality. And he points out, okay, yeah, it was a game changer. All you have to do is go to DailyKos and see we haven't written about McCain in a week now, right? It's a singular obsession with Palin. She's the gift that keeps on giving. Well, except for no, because she's obscuring talking about McCain or letting McCain talk about himself, which would be bad for McCain. So, I mean, I think his approach is very impractical. It's funny, since she has so little experience, the leftist bloggers have all jumped on, and liberal bloggers, I should just say Democratic bloggers, because Markos is not a leftist by any means. He's a Democratic partisan.